In Crawl, directed by Alexandre Aja. I keep forgetting how to say his last name, but that's a director. Kay Scolodario plays a young woman who was a swimmer. That's her trade, or her hobby, or whatever, her sport. She goes back home. She disobeys evacuation orders because there's a hurricane in a Florida area. She goes back home to try to find out what happened to her father. Her father's in trouble. She wants to see if he's okay in this bad weather, and she finds out he is in trouble. But it's not just the hurricane that's bothering her father, played by Barry Pepper. It's also a pack of man-eating alligators. And in the process, she and her father have to survive the alligators, but also find a way to get help in this horrible, horrible storm. And in the process, there's other characters who wind up wrapped up in the movie too, and who also live or just running around that town. They run afoul of the alligators too. And, that's basically the story, the plot. It's man and woman. It's the young woman and her father versus monster, versus alligator. And it's a pretty good movie. Crawl was not a movie I was planning to see. I see a lot of horror movies and thrillers, but this is one I thought would just be some minor thriller or horror movie that even I wouldn't watch. But I kept seeing all these people saying this movie's really good, and I was like, okay, I need to check it out and do a review of it. And it is. I just saw it. It is a pretty good movie. It's a good movie. It is exactly what you think it is as well. It's basically, person versus alligator, or a pack of alligators. There's more than one. But the way that the director and the writer set it up, they find a way to, even though, I guess, compared to a lot of other horror movies, it seems mundane. We have aliens and ghosts and space monsters. This one is just some alligators. But again, this movie does remind you that in real life, there are a lot of threats we have to face that, they're not space aliens, but, there's real animals here on Earth that if you run into them, you better watch out. And the writing of the movie and the directing, they find a way to raise the stakes where, the encounter with these alligators and also the surrounding hurricane, there are threats or threatening situations, and they raise the stakes. It's just not just you versus an alligator during one scene, then it's you versus two alligators in the next scene, and then it's you versus two alligators, and meanwhile there's boats flying in through windows. Do you know what I mean? They find a way to write and architect the movie in a way where these threats that don't really seem that major compared to what's in a lot of movies these days, the way it's written and directed and shot, it actually does seem important enough and major enough to make this movie thrilling, right? And that's basically one of the main reasons why I think Crawl is doing so well with people who have chosen to watch it. I also think that because the two main protagonists, it's a father-daughter pair, right? There is sort of kind of family dynamics. Well, there is family dynamics. I say sort of because the movie doesn't dwell on it so much that it becomes boring or schmaltzy. They know how to spend just as much time, talking about, family drama or, just them, loving each other as father and daughter for you to be invested in them, but not so much that you're like, I'm tired of this, let's get to the alligators. They know they do it just enough where you do care and become invested in these characters where, when they're menaced, it's like, oh man, I hope they don't kill that person, that sort of thing, right? There were some scenes where the father, Barry Pepper, he was in serious trouble, and it's like, this dude is in trouble. And I was worried for that character's life. I'm not going to tell you whether he survives or not, or whether she survives or not. You got to watch the movie. And they also have a little dog. I forget the dog's name. And there's a scene where the dog is threatened. And it's like, you don't want the alligators to eat the dog. Do the alligators eat the dog? You have to watch the movie to find out. This is a spoiler-free review. But, Crawl is a good movie. And I think, if you're someone who likes horror movies and thriller movies, you'll get into it. I do know that the only bad thing I'll say about it, sometimes early in the movie, these alligators, I think, were all CGI. I don't think there were any practical effects or any, real alligators used. There were a couple of scenes where I could kind of tell it wasn't a real alligator. But again, the special effects were so good that didn't really bother me. It's like, when I play video games or watch YouTube Let's Plays, I mean, the graphics are good, but I can tell that it's not real people or real monsters or real cities. It looks really good, though, but I'm still emotionally invested. So it's the same for Crawl. Even though I could tell sometimes that it wasn't a real crocodile or alligator, I forget the difference. I think these are... What is the difference between a crocodile and an alligator? But whatever. You know what I'm talking about. I could look on the screen and tell that wasn't a real, animal, but it was real enough where I was still like, ooh, I hope the animal doesn't eat that person. So, Crawl's a good movie. If you like thrillers, horror movies, or this is a horror movie, I'd say. A horror movie, though, where the monsters are real. Like, real creatures you could encounter. Not, like Jason Voorhees or something. But, if you like horror movies, you should like Crawl. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel because I appreciate your viewership, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.